Growing up, the rules in our house were never written down, but everyone followed them. My older brother, Marcus, was the future. I was the one who made things work. Marcus had the framed photos, football jerseys, medals, trophies lined across the mantel. My father stood beside him in those pictures with a kind of pride I rarely saw directed anywhere else. When family visited, the stories always circled back to Marcus, his wins, his potential, his path. I existed in the background. If something broke, I fixed it. If bills needed sorting, I helped my mother. If Marcus made a mistake, I smoothed it over. At the time, it didn't feel unfair. It just felt normal. That's how childhood works. You accept the world you're given. It wasn't until much later that I realized the roles never changed. They just grew up with us. The opportunity came out of nowhere. A regional operations position opened at a logistics company expanding into our area. I'd spent over a decade working my way up quietly, steadily, without shortcuts or connections. When I finally got the call offering me the job, it felt like something I had genuinely earned. Then Marcus called. He'd applied to. Except he hadn't told me in his mind. The job was already his, something that would fall into place through one of our father's connections. The way things always had for him. When I told him I'd accepted the position, the line went silent, not a normal silence, a heavy one. A few days later, my father called. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He just asked one question. Why would you take something your brother needed? Needed, not wanted, needed. I remember staring at the wall, trying to understand how applying for a job through a standard process had somehow turned me into the one in the wrong. That was the moment something shifted, and it was the moment I called a liar. I didn't expect things to escalate, but small things had started creeping in: late-night messages, vague comments about loyalty, about knowing your place. Nothing direct, nothing you could point to, but enough to make you cautious. The liar listened carefully, then gave me simple advice. If anything happens, document everything. At the time, it felt excessive. 2 weeks later, it didn't. We had a small family gathering at my parents' house. Barbecue in the driveway. Kids laughing, drawing with chalk on the concrete. The kind of day where everything looks normal from the outside. My daughter was kneeling on the pavement, carefully sketching flowers when my father arrived. He barely acknowledged me. For a while, everything stayed polite. Then Marcus brought up the job. And just like that, the atmosphere changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, just heavier. My father stood still for a moment, then walked past everyone toward his truck. At first, I thought he'd forgotten something. Instead, he reached into the back and pulled out a crowbar. The sound came first. Glass doesn't shatter the way it does in movies. It caves inward with a sharp, hollow crack that hits your chest before your mind understands it. My car window collapsed across the seat. The kids froze. No one spoke. He lifted the crowbar again and slammed it into the door, denting the metal. Then he turned to me, not angry, not out of control, just certain. That's what you deserve. For a moment, I thought everything inside me would explode. Years of being overlooked, compared, reduced to a supporting role in someone else's story. But the anger didn't come the way I expected. What came instead was something colder, clearer, final. I walked over, took my daughter's hand, and spoke calmly. Let's go inside. The kids followed me without question. Behind me, I could feel him waiting for shouting, for a fight, for some kind of reaction. But I gave him nothing. And somehow, That silence was louder than anything I could have said. 3 days later, a letter arrived at my father's house. Not from me, from my attorney. Inside was a copy of the recording. My phone had been in my pocket the entire time, exactly as I'd been advised. The audio was unmistakable. The crowbar, the glass breaking, his voice. "That's what you deserve." The letter itself was simple, professional, precise. It outlined the property damage, mentioned the presence of children, included witness statements from neighbors who had seen everything. At the bottom was a request for reimbursement. Nothing more, just a clear statement. Any further incidents would be handled through formal legal channels. No threats, just consequences. My father never called. A check arrived in the mail a few days later. Exact amount. No note. No apology. Since then, things have changed. Family gatherings are shorter, quieter. My father no longer shows up unannounced. Marcus stopped making jokes about me taking what wasn't mine. No one ever admitted anything. No confrontation. No apology. No resolution in the way people expect. But something fundamental shifted. For the first time in my life, the rules weren't controlled entirely by him. There were boundaries now. Not emotional ones. Real ones. The kind that exist because they're enforced. The car window was replaced within a week. Eventually, the kids stopped asking why their grandfather had been so angry. Life moved forward. But sometimes, I still think about that moment in the driveway. The crowbar. The sound of glass collapsing. The certainty in his voice. He thought he was putting me back in my place. Instead, he showed me exactly where the line needed to be drawn. And once that line existed, something changed in me. I didn't feel like the lesser son anymore. Just a man who finally stopped accepting damage as part of love.